Life-sized human figures of stalagmite were sitting upright upon conveniently arranged settees, and, to all appearance, enjoying themselves. Okay, just imagine pouring your morning coffee, opening up your newspaper back in 1866, and reading that absolutely incredible claim. According to the press at the time, this vast, glittering subterranean world, complete with petrified humans, gold-bearing quartz, and spiral brass staircases, had just been discovered right beneath the streets of St. Anthony, which we know today as Minneapolis. But you have to ask, was literally any of it real?
Well, let's dive right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're untangling the bizarre historical cold case known as the Chute's Cave Mystery. This wasn't just some local rumor, you guys. It was a nationally propagated newspaper hoax that completely gripped the 19th century public's imagination. And today, we're going to walk through exactly how modern detective work finally laid this incredible underground myth to rest. Section 1. The Underground Detective, Rediscovering a Lost Landmark. To get to the bottom of all this, we have to introduce our lead investigator. That investigator is geologist Greg Brick, and he essentially treated this 140-year-old mystery like a genuine crime scene. The timeline here is just fascinating. Back in 1990, the site had been largely forgotten, buried deep underneath Main Street Southeast. But Brick wasn't going to just sit around reading old newspaper clippings. No, he actually squeezed himself into the dark, corkscrew crawlways threading through the breakdown slabs of this forgotten space. He physically explored it. And that incredible first-hand exploration laid the absolute groundwork for his definitive research article published in 2004, which, by the way, serves as the foundation for our entire explainer today. He's the one who finally put the puzzle pieces together. Section 2. The Nesmith Cave Hoax, a tall tale in the New York Herald. So what exactly did Brick's 2004 research uncover? Let's turn the clock back to where this myth actually started. To understand the hoax, we have to look at the reality of who was digging beneath the city in the first place. Enter Samuel H. Chute. He was an agent for the St. Anthony Falls Water Power Company. In 1864, Chute sent out east for some machinery and had his workmen begin excavating a tunnel deep into the white St. Peter sandstone. But here's the thing. He wasn't looking for ancient wonders or hidden treasure. He was digging a highly practical industrial tunnel to open up water power for the city. It was purely business.
The gap between reality and what the newspapers claimed is honestly hilarious. The reality? Workmen with hand tools chipping away at soft, wet sandstone in a dark tunnel. But the myth? Well, in December 1866, the New York Herald reported that a man named Reuben Nesmith struck an iron trapdoor leading down 123 steps of a spiral brass staircase, opening up into these massive halls of polished marble, gold-bearing quartz, and of course, those infamous petrified humans hanging out on settees. It was a spectacular, almost ridiculous exaggeration of a simple municipal water project.
So, who actually spun this web of lies? Brick's detective work points the finger squarely at a man named David Edwards. Described by people who knew him as someone endowed with a gift of entertaining originality, Edwards was basically known locally as St. Anthony's first wag. Operating under the pen name Luther Chamberlain, he's the one who likely authored these incredibly embellished, lurid descriptions that ended up getting picked up by papers all across the nation. Section 3. The Mound Builder Myth, Inspiring an Archaeological Hoax. This begs the question, where did Edwards get the inspiration for such specific, elaborate lies? They didn't just pull these details out of thin air. This is where Brick's research truly shines. He uncovered that the hoaxers borrowed heavily from the cultural zeitgeist of the era, specifically the mound builder mythology. This was a super popular 19th century theory that an ancient, vanished race of superior beings had built the earthen mounds found across North America. The hoaxers lifted details straight out of archaeological texts, placing things like altars and calcined bones right into their fake cave story. Brick even noticed they pulled inspiration directly from famous tourist attractions, like the Pillar of the Constitution from Indiana's Wyandotte Cave. They described a giant stalagmite in their hoax that was remarkably similar to that well-known landmark. They were essentially copy-pasting popular tourist tropes right into their local tall tale. Now, to be fair, they did have some actual real-world geological features to exaggerate. Take this incredible flowstone formation found inside the real cave. Cavers call this specific shape a medusa. What happens is water trickles over the limestone, it gets impregnated with iron, and it creates this jet black, almost eerie appearance. So in the hands of our hoaxers, a beautiful but totally natural flowstone mound like this was wildly embellished into towering ancient monuments and Gothic cathedrals. Section 4. The 10-cent tourist trap, Pettingill's Amusement Resort. But the story doesn't end when the newspapers finally issued retractions. Even after the Nesmith Cave hoax was thoroughly debunked, the site itself took on this fascinating second life. It transitioned from an imaginary wonderland into a very real, bustling tourist trap. In the 1870s, an enterprising guy named Pettingill leased the area around the cave and turned it into St. Anthony's Falls Mineral Springs. He built a massive amusement resort right there in the shadow of the sawmills, complete with an observation tower, a hotel, mineral spring water, and a photographic gallery. And the main attraction? The tunnel itself. And the best part is how accessible this underground adventure became. For the incredibly moderate sum of just 10 cents, literally a single dime, tourists could descend into what the advertisements dramatically called the bowels of the earth. The exact same tunnel Samuel Chute dug for water power had officially become a commercialized show cave, completely capitalizing on the residual fame of the hoax. I really want you to picture this experience. Imagine handing over your dime, taking a seat in a rude, flat-bottomed scow, and just floating into the darkness. At the bow of your boat is a trusty pilot holding a smoking, flaming torch. You're traveling 2,000 feet under Main Street, squeezed between walls of pure white sandstone with a limestone arch right overhead. It was billed as inexpensive and decidedly interesting, and it drew excited crowds for years. Section 5. Collapse and Modern Memory. The Cave's Demise. Unfortunately, nothing lasts forever, especially not underground tunnels carved beneath a rapidly industrializing milling district. The era of torchlit boat rides came to a really sudden end. In the summer of 1880, a large crew started excavating a tail race for the Pillsbury A mill right below the resort, which completely wreaked havoc on the site's foundation. Then, disaster struck. On the evening of December 23, 1880, a massive portion of Main Street just collapsed straight down into the cave, swallowing up trees and totally destroying the tunnel's accessibility. Pettingill had to close up shop. But, and this is wild, the cave had one last bizarre burst of notoriety. During the Cold War in the 1950s and 60s, local papers actually started publishing rumors suggesting the lost cave could serve as an atom bomb shelter. You can actually see the permanent, physical scar of that collapse on the historical record. Take a close look at this 1880 Corps of Engineers map. You'll see a specific notation marking the break of December 23, 1880. The ground gave way to an oval-shaped sinkhole that extended hundreds of feet down the street. It was a catastrophic end to Pettingill's underground amusement park. Now, as for those 1950s atom bomb rumors, the cave was totally unsuitable for fallout protection. It had water contamination issues, and it was located right in a prime target area. But large open chambers of the cave did survive beneath the city, heavily timbered with wood, as you can see in this deteriorating structure from 1936. The space didn't vanish. It just fell completely out of public memory. It basically waited in darkness until Greg Brick did his detective work and squeezed through the rubble in 1990 to finally document the truth. Which leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. Greg Brick's definitive 2004 research didn't just map a physical cave beneath the city. It essentially mapped the 19th century mind. The hoaxers succeeded because they tapped into something people wanted to be true. Why was America so eager to believe in a mythical, vanished race of superior mound builders dwelling just beneath their bustling city streets? What does our willingness to embrace such wild, elaborate hoaxes say about our own desire for mystery in the modern world? It's definitely something to think about the next time you read an unbelievable headline. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what you read.